Please welcome Payhawk VP Marketing, Désirée Schildt, and Payhawk co-founder and CEO, Hristo Borisov.
Hello. Nice to meet you. Thanks for making it today in sunny Barcelona. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go over our story of how we started the company and how we got to Series A in such a short time, and then how we became a unicorn. And then Desi is going to talk about some of the key takeaways that we got from that stage. So first of all, we are a company that is still not 4 years old. We are turning 4 next month, and we crossed in March the $1 billion mark as a company valuation. So we started the company with a big idea. We said, in order to create a big company, you need to solve a big problem in a big market. And if you can do that, then your company is going to be a function out of the market that you address. And our first strategy is going to build a company in a way which we can search for a market which we would like to address. And that was the first key thing for us. We went through then very easy angel round of 130K. And then we went through 62 rejections to get our seed round closed in 2019. Why 62? I'm going to explain later on. Then we raised finally our seed round on the day of the lockdown of COVID. So March 13, 2020, when everything was getting in lockdown, we sent the call for our investors to send the money for the seed round. And all of them said, I hope those money, I'll see them again at some point in our lifetime. So that was a very key moment. Then we managed to go and close the Series A of 20 million last April. And then this year, we managed to get the 100 million combined rate, 250 million Series B round to get to a unicorn state. So the agenda today is to go through some of the really key takeaways of what made our journey possible, and what were the things that were fundamental and instrumental for us to get things right very early on. So the first thing is starting with the right foundation. This is something extremely important, especially in the market environment in which we are today. As you can see what's happening with tech market, if you don't have solid foundation, read that strong unit economics, a really strong and healthy strategy on how you're going to attack the market, and making sure you have a way, or your way, to approach the market is really important. And then how we build our product in a way that we made sure that is something that is that has differentiation, it can easily address the market, and it's something that customers are willing to buy at scale. Then how do we work in a regulated market, which is something that is key for anything that's in financial services, and then how we blitzscale our operation. So the first thing is, and this is extremely important when you're fundraising and when you're a venture-backed company, is getting the foundation right. And for us, the first idea was that we're going to go and iterate over a concept as much as possible without falling in love in that idea. So, we wanted to make sure that we are iterating over something. We come up with an idea, we go and pitch it to customers, we go and create prototypes, we go create pricing, we go create websites, but we don't fall in love in that idea, so that when customers are rejecting us, we can actually be, not emotional about it, but rational. And we make sure that, hey, this is actually something that the market says, which is quite important. Then we wanted to make sure we have the right foundation. So from day one, we had a strong team that have used, they worked before. We have done multiple products before in a different environment, and we were sure that if we go in the market, we should find our way to, be different and to differentiate. And a key thing for us was that we wanted to make sure that we can bring the game to be about software. Because in the financial services market and all the banks, everything is about, payments and disruption and so on. But our DNA as a company was being able to create software. And we knew that when you go in a new market, if we bring the game to be about software, then nobody can compete with us, because this is the top of our game. The other thing was very important, and this is something that investors are really looking at every company, is how you structure and how fair is the setup. If you have a cap table where, let's say, you have two co-founders, one is owning 20%, the other 80%, that is a recipe for disaster. You need to make sure very early on that you have a fair split. And when we started the company, my co-founder, Boyko, one of the co-founders, said, I would be happy to join the company. I'm happy with 20%. And I said, no, you should have 50% because I need an equal co-founder who is rightly vested into this business. And we don't optimize on percentages. The question is percentage of what? Because even 100% of zero is zero, right? So don't focus on these micro optimizations and make sure you have a fair structure. The next thing we did is when we set up the company, we put together reverse vesting for the founders. And we said, we are agreeing before we even start the company, if you leave tomorrow, how much you're going to take away from the business for the next 3 years. So that if it's too tough for you, or things are not working, or you have other ideas in life, you know, and we agree before we start how things are going to work out. And this is something that investors appreciate, and I think makes extremely easy the communication internally, because a huge amount of companies fail because their founders cannot agree. And this is the first thing you can prevent in a company. And the next thing we did was we also set up an employee stock option plan from day one. So we said, if we're starting, we need to treat the employees fairly as co-founders of the business, and we set up a dedicated pool from day one, and we set up a scheme how we're going to distribute that for the first 12 employees, which was preconceived without we have even met the people. So we knew that we are fair with every person we're getting in the business. Then, obviously, we got 62 rejections over a period of 9 months. And it was really hard time. You go and you pitch and you explain what you're doing and you're showing them their product and they're saying, no, that's not going to work. You don't have this, you don't have that. We're a company based in Bulgaria. And what happened for us was that it was really important for us to really think about what are the things we have and what are the things we don't have. So what we don't have is access to a local market. But on the flip side, this means that from day one, we need to be concentrating on the markets that are outside of Bulgaria. So from day one, we have to be international. And we turn that into our advantage. And we're a company now focusing on multinational companies, and that's part of our core strength. And what was key during that time with fundraising is that investors were saying that's really, really hard for you to be able to penetrate the international markets all at once based out of Bulgaria. Nobody has done that before, and so on and so forth. But what was key for us was to really focus on the customers. We didn't listen that much on what investors are saying. We were listening what the market is saying, which is the most important thing. And we were in that paradox where you can see that the customers were really fond of what we were building, and they really wanted to use that thing, while investors were having any other kind of, multiple reasons why this is not going to work. And that leads us to the most important thing when you're starting a business, that is fundamental. Getting spark in the eyes of your customer. If you're able to pitch something and you can see somebody engaged and listening to you and willing to learn more, that is a big, big signal that you're on something big. If it takes so much time to explain, maybe you're explaining to the wrong guy. Change the person or the target persona or the company size that you're explaining to. And really find and nail down your target customer, because that is really key. Stay customer focused. So this guy that you see is actually the CEO of Luxembourg Airlines, which is a customer. And once you get those customers who are, this is a company that is around for 75 years. And they have never used another product in financial services market before Payhawk. They had a bank account for 70 years, and they have never changed that. But if you're able to really make somebody that is obviously not the, let's say, the perfect customer right away, and you can turn it into a big believer, that is going to be a huge advantage for you down the road, because this shows you how big the addressable market is. And on the other side, we were really obsessed about serving those customers and getting things into the right direction. So how to make change within the rules? So disrupting a regulated market is really, really hard. So what we knew is that the next frontiers of big companies are going to be at the intersection between industries. So it's not going to be only SaaS anymore. It needs to be SaaS with fintech, SaaS with healthcare, SaaS with biotech or something. Because now, we went through that phase of scaling SaaS until 2015, 2016, and now that market gets super saturated. Everything is SaaS, everything is a software company. And you really need to find the new pockets where some of those markets are going to start to converge. And this is what happened for us. We identified that, company cards, company cards, bank payments, expense management, spend management, invoice management, data extraction should be actually one system. It doesn't have to be 5 different markets that are now. And this is where the disruption comes. When you're able to identify something that is currently being used. And the key thing for us was that we knew that the finance people were not tech guys. They were forced to use 4 or 5 different products at the same time, and that was key for us. We said, well, why don't we merge those market categories? And of course, all the investors said, you guys are crazy. Those are 4 different markets that they have huge competitors. And I said, well, that's so good for us because we're addressing a massive market. So you guys should be happy, not afraid. And then you need to start thinking a little bit more about how you can actually measure where you're going. And while you're scaling fast, for a company like Payhawk, we have been growing 21% month over month for the last 20 months. You sometimes lose yourself in the data and the metrics, and you really need to nail down what's your North Star and what you're optimizing. And all of your companies should know about 1 or 2 goals that you focused on. And this is something that you communicate to investors, and that's something that you really make sure all of our, if you're using OKRs or strategy or metrics, really aligns to. And then in terms of blitzscaling our operations, our strategy was to have a small team that is fully capable, and we empower those people to focus on key things. So instead of having a very heavy organization, we said, let's have a very flat organization. Let's empower people. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt at the beginning, and let's see whether they can execute. And if they cannot, you as a manager and a leader, you have to make sure you have set these people for success. Do they have the right resources? Do they have the goals that they need to go for? And do they have the tools to achieve that? And if you have done that, and if those people are not able to, go and deliver, then if you have to let go people, it is fair for both parties and people understand that. But you treat people with respect, and you give them the opportunity right away. And that makes a huge change for us. So we are a company that is, last year at that time, we were 29 employees. Right now, we are 200 employees, and we are operating in 6 markets. And that's not going to be possible if you do not let go and you focus on the people so that they can build on that. On our part, was also important to use everything that is SaaS, really cut the admin time and the paperwork and the heavy process as much as possible. Because at the beginning, you really need to focus on the key metrics. And you're not in the business of managing expenses or being an HR tool or managing many other things that are excessive. And it was very key for us to be able to focus on allowing people to do their job in the fastest possible way. So now we will go to Desi, who is going to share the key takeaways, and then we'll do a short Q&A session.
Hi, and thanks, Hristo, for sharing all the insights of how we managed to become a unicorn. It was a really long journey with a lot of ups and downs and really a lot of hard work in a very short time. So I actually joined Payhawk 1.5 years ago, and to be honest, it feels like at least 10 years ago, because so much has happened. We not only raised a seed round and Series B with a unicorn valuation, but also we grew the team. I think when I started, we were 40 people, and now we're at 180. 14, and now we're at 180. And also we expanded to a lot of new markets. We now have offices in Sofia, in London, Berlin, Barcelona actually, and Amsterdam and Paris. So I'm certain that we only managed to grow this fast because we got the foundations right. And also, I know that you cannot just take the success story of us or any other scale-up and just apply it to other business models or other founder teams. However, there is some like key success factors and takeaways I want to share with you to also take home if you want to grow even faster. So let's start with the first takeaway, which is to build a stellar team. So to build an excellent team is key. An excellent team with the right skill sets and shared values is key if you drive to grow your company. And this stellar team starts with the right founders team. You need a founders team that complement each other with their skill set. So for example, if you have a team of techies, you might manage to build an amazing product and excel in product development. However, maybe you're not able to define a suitable go-to-market strategy. So at Payhawk, we have this team that complement each other with their skill set, with backgrounds coming from product management, engineering, and finance. To build a stellar team does not only mean to build the founder team, but furthermore, you have to hire your entire staff. And when hiring your staff, so first of all, obviously, diversity, and besides diversity, actually at Payhawk, I think we have 40% women, which is quite unique in the fintech industry in Europe. But besides diversity, I would recommend to start hiring very senior first, because you need to get the right foundations to allow to scale after that. So for example, in the marketing team, I started hiring a content director and a head of offline marketing who would then build the team further. This will allow you to really focus on scale, on getting the marketing strategy right, and then to further scale. Also, don't do any compromises when it comes to hiring. You might feel the pressure to hire very fast. But if you still should ensure that you have a lean but still really smart hiring process. Because if it comes to, if you have to let people go because of not aligned skill set or values, it will create unnecessary chaos and turbulence with your team. So make sure you don't do any compromises when it comes to hiring. Attract investors, new investors, but be picky. So it is crucial that one of your founders knows how to pitch an idea and knows how to network, so to be able to attract investors. So if you have the luxury of choosing your investors, choose them wisely. And by wisely, I mean that you have to find an investor who truly understands your business model, your challenges, who supports you, and in the best case, who also has invested in other companies in the same industry, because this will allow you to get inspired or also to challenge your strategy. Guarantee true product market fit. Well, you have to fully understand your core customer. Let's say your sweet spot customer, so the customer segment you will start to target. And if you fully understand what their needs are, you understand what features they need to solve this need. And so if you understand your product segment, your customer segment, this will define your product roadmap. So as important as it is to really understand the needs of your customers, it is likewise important to expand your segments further, because only if you capture really a big market, you will be able to scale really fast. So let's say you have an initial customer. Let's take Payhawk as an example, with our sweet spot initial customer being scale-ups in the software as a service and fintech industry. So we built all features to fulfill their needs. Then more and more enterprise customers became interested in our product, and that's why we are now targeting on those and building more features in the enterprise area. This is, by the way, why today we are launching our Oracle NetSuite integration here to build more enterprise features. So also when it comes to a product market fit, the needs can differ widely when you enter new markets. So you might need different features in Germany than in Spain. So we tackle this problem by hiring local experts in all of our key markets. get your marketing strategy right. So for like a market you newly created, it's really important to educate customers. If you're in a market that is already really crowded and competitive, it is really important to get your positioning right. So if you need to have a really clear positioning and communicate it via a variety of marketing channels to the customer so that they understand what you are doing different than the rest in the market. So this can happen in various ways. So for example, you can have an out-of-home billboard live and measure the brand traffic, or you can attend events and count the number of leads you will generate. I would recommend that you test a lot of different channels, make those channels measurable, also brand awareness channels, because this will allow you, when you have the necessary budget and funds to scale, that you have the right setup. Dream big right from the start. Walt Disney said that to have a truly creative team, you need to have a dreamer, a critic, and a realist. So for young startups, it's easy, like for young startups that face the challenge of foundation and or the pain of growth, it's easy to overly become critical and pragmatic. And this is where you need a dreamer who thinks outside the box, who sees what you cannot even think about, and who's not afraid to fail or to take risks. So, for example, when I joined Payhawk, I actually asked you, what is the vision, your vision for Payhawk? And you said, we will be the biggest bank in the world without holding a single cent. And frankly, at that time, I thought, wow, that's a bit too big for me, maybe a bit crazy. But then I realized that this vision actually drives the whole growth of the team. And became kind of the North Star for the team and for what we have achieved. So I really think that only if you think a bit too big, you will be able to become a unicorn. Thank you.
We have a mic at the back, so if anybody has questions, feel free. And maybe just to add on the talent, because I think attracting 1% of the talent is easy to say, but if you don't overspend on people, that's not going to happen. And for us, that was a key metric. We would rather go and build a plan of 5 people instead of 10, but overcompensate those 5 people and make sure that these guys are fully compensated, and we are very aggressive in attracting the right people. Because otherwise, headcount doesn't matter if you get the wrong people. So there is a person there.
I think the microphone is coming.
I was just going to ask, on the topic of talent, is there anything special about your interview process that you're doing to make sure that you're finding the right people?
Is there anything, just to repeat, is there anything special on our recruitment process?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, first of all, there are a few fundamental things. So I, myself, as a CEO and the other founders, we try to be involved as much as possible. So I spend 80% of my time interviewing and meeting people, which to me is critical. One of the interesting things we do is we do have 8 characteristics for every role. 4 of those are company-wide and they're set. Work ethic, intelligence, data-driven as a person, and being humble. Those things should be right, and we have a very clear strategy on what are the questions you need to ask, and what are the kind of the good signals and the bad signals that people would go through. That is going to tell you whether this person is, let's say, data-driven or humble and doesn't have a big ego and so on and so forth. So we are trying to train those people on those 4 key company characteristics that really are making us successful. And then 4 others are role-specific. So it's a BDR, curiosity, and so on and so forth. So that is maybe one of the things we do. The other things we do is we try to be very careful on how we recruit people. So in general, what we did is we never had a job ad for the first 30, 35 people. All of them were recruited and headhunted and targeted specifically because we knew exactly who we need and what we need. And it was much harder. It takes 3 to 4 times longer time to fill a position if you just post an ad and get people. But it was the right targeted approach for us that worked. There is a mic coming, maybe.
Sorry. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I just wanted to have a question regarding the markets that you were targeting. So you said that you hired a local person in every market, but how did you decide which market you want to target? And the part of the targeting different markets, it's your like feature set or the customers or your pricing models different per market?
So first of all, how we decided, we focused on the biggest markets and the richest markets. So it was about how big is the addressable market and how penetrated is the market from others. So those were the key drivers. And also for us, how digital is the market versus how kind of paper-driven is the market. So we had those criteria and we selected our targets. And for us, it was key that we have local people in those markets and we localize as much as possible. So we have the website, the mobile app, everything is in the local language, customer support, customer success, sales, BDRs, everything is in the local language. All the touch points with you are in local language. The feature set is tailored to the market, but it takes time. So you start with the markets where you have big overlap, that with your capability, you can address the market with, let's say, 90% of your features. And maybe 10% is local features you need to dig. For example, today we're launching 60 days VAT return for the Spanish market, which is key thing for these local markets. And we took a year and a half to certify with the tax authorities in Spain so that we can be a paperless business. And you can actually take a picture with our app and throw away the paper and not end up going back from this conference with a pile of receipts in your pockets, which I'm sure a lot of you have somewhere. So those were key things. And the way you do them in different markets is different. For example, the standards for being paperless in Germany, UK, and so on are different. So the key thing for us was the addressable market, likelihood of success based on competitors, how educated is the market, which is usually pros and cons. It's a double-edged sword, and you need to be careful.
Hi there.
Sorry.
Here in the back. Going back to talent, did you create like a scalable process or on hiring and motivating talent, like senior talent to come and join Payhawk? Probably this question is also for Désirée. What made you change? And is there any scalability to that process? Thanks.
So Desi can say what we do, but I think fundamental is that the CEO is involved into recruitment. That is extremely important. So, for example, for senior hires, it is really important for them to get the vision, make sure they're comfortable, and they can actually build a good relationship with the founder because we are peers, right? We are a team. I have my leadership team, and all those people, we are working together, deciding things together, and we are on a daily basis making decisions. And I think that's really important. And finding ways to show that you have common values is the first part. Because if you find somebody that has your values and really is a proponent of your thinking, and then show you a market that is massive so you can really grow your potential, and it is a great opportunity, I think that's the key thing for us. We are entering in a massive market with a great fit, and the opportunity for somebody, let's say we're interviewing for a sales position, let's say on a director level, is massive. This person can go from, let's say in his previous company, he managed 5-6 people. We usually always hire one level below. We always go for up-and-comers who we believe are going to be fundamental, and they have been pivotal in their teams for the success of their organization, so that we can give them the ground for them to grow. And those people really appreciate that, this kind of benefits you give them. And you also ensure that those people are also scrappy and they have very high work ethic. And this is key for a SaaS, for a startup, right? Because at the end of the day, if you come and say, I need 45 people from day one, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, so maybe what I can add is, I think what's a challenge, so if you hire really senior people, sometimes they expect to, let's say, start just managing the team. But as I also mentioned before, we start to hire senior people first. So this means they also have to be super hands-on, because they will become more strategic and more the manager person as they would hire their own team. And this is sometimes hard to find.
Maybe you can say why you rejected 3 times. And you can explain why you rejected 3 times the offer and then finally decided to join.
Oh, okay.
Because that was part of the question. Why did you join?
Yes. So in the end, I got an offer 2 years ago, and then I rejected it actually. But what the reason behind it was, well, I wasn't actually ready to change. I was happy in my job, and then I talked to Hristo again, and we had like not an interview call, but more like a general call. And I got really convinced of their values and their drive of the whole founder team. So I really talked to all of them, and it somehow got me like rethink my decision, and yeah, making me join Payhawk.
So never give up. Okay. I think we are done. Sorry if we don't have questions. We are over there on the right, so you can ask us questions all day long, today and tomorrow. So happy to answer all the questions we couldn't get today. And thanks for staying till the end.
VP Product Growth, Haresh Baraj, and Pleo Commercial Lead Market Expansion, Aiyana Scully Moorhead.
Yeah, I think we can come a little bit closer. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is really exciting. So many happy faces. We've met a few people who were like really looking forward to the talk. Really, we didn't imagine people would want to show up to the talk. We were having bets of how few people will be there, but really excited, really happy to see so many people. So very quickly, I'm Haresh Bajaj. I'm the VP of Product Growth, and together with
Aiyana Moorhead. I'm the commercial lead for the international market expansion team at Pleo.
we are going to talk about how we are unlocking product-led growth at Pleo by bringing product managers and salespeople together. This is a topic which is super exciting, something which is really close to our heart. You can see the excitement on our faces as well. So we are really looking forward to telling you a little bit about what we have been doing. As you can imagine, I represent the product side of the equation, and my colleague Aiyana represents the commercial side of the equation. Before we get into it, very quick intros. I've been at Pleo for roughly 10 months. I head up all of our international expansion, and I also head up our largest revenue and customer segment. Before Pleo, I was with Klarna. I helped scale up their B2B business. I've always been in financial services and mostly in tech scale-ups.
Yep. Quickly about me, I have experience more in the startup commercial side with Nordic startups, mostly in marketing and sales, and now I've been at Pleo around 4 years in different roles in different markets. I'm right now leading international expansion on the commercial side. But just to set a tiny bit the scene, I'm not too sure if you guys actually have heard of Pleo before or you know what we do, so maybe just a quick show of hands. Has anyone, or are you going to have to file an expense claim after you finish this event this week? If you do, maybe can you raise your hand? Okay, so you can position us. We essentially solve that space. We've been around for around 7 years. We're pan-European, and we just look to make the expense reporting process a lot easier and a lot better. So, background context done. Let's now get into the actual presentation and questions. And the first question that we're going to start with, can sales reps and product managers get along, and can they actually ever really be best friends?
I guess we'll find out. I think in most organizations, there's a really healthy tension, at least the ones that we have been. On one side, there's the organization which is building the product offering, and on the other side, there's the set of the organization which is taking that offering to the market. So the marketing teams, sales, customer success, so on and so forth.
And we normally see that there's a bit of tension that develops here, and for us, that comes in two different ways, or comes from different places. One, companies today tend to organize themselves across verticals, so marketing, customer success, engineering, product, and these verticals then turn into communication and work silos. And two, then, a consequence to that, the different day-to-day goals develop for the different teams, meaning that we're not running towards the same area, we're sort of going towards the things that we need to do on a day-to-day. And because of that, then a very natural tension emerges here.
So we're going to break the tension a little bit by telling you a few jokes. Full disclaimer, we are terrible at telling jokes, but we're going to take this on, see how it lands. Aiyana, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so some of the stereotypes that we have in product from the sales organization, condensed to a couple jokes here. Product deadlines are more flexible than a gymnast. Okay, I see some
Try
laughs.
one more.
No, last. Maybe I'll try another one. What's the best way to pay a product manager? American Express. They love taking credit for everything. There was one laugh there.
Not always true, but I think I can try a bit on how we look at the salespeople on the product side. So take a guess, how many salespeople does it take to change a light bulb? Well, no one really knows because they're not going to come to change the light bulb, but they're going to send someone from customer support to guide you through the process ASAP. Look, I think the thing that we are trying to do is this typifies most organizations, or at least the organizations that we have been part of. And we're going to take you on a couple of stories to tell you, I think, how we are breaking down some of this healthy tension that exists in organizations.
Yeah, so the first story that I want to tell you guys is one about trust by the way of empathy. This is my colleague, Paulius. Today he's a product director at a really exciting new startup. But back when we were working together at Pleo, Paulius had a mission. He wanted to get a lot closer to his customers. So he embarked upon a 2-week project where he sat in around 50 customer calls and sales calls. Paulius, at the end of this project, was super happy because he felt he really understood what customers were really missing and what are the pains that they're trying to solve. But on the side of this, something very interesting happened. He also witnessed the commercial team, sales and customer success, a lot of their issues and all of their pains, because they were presenting the product, they were distributing the product, and they were going through these motions over and over again. So at the end of this, Paulius was sort of in a very unique position because there was one problem he was trying to solve, but that problem, he was just looking at it from one angle, when in reality, the problem is a lot more holistic. So the change he was able to make was threefold, because he's not just solving something for our customers, but also for his internal colleagues. So I think you can call and you can refer to product managers with a lot of different names or in different ways. You know, the CEO of your own product, the fixer, the shipper, the shit umbrella. But when we think about it, and what really makes sense to us is that the purpose of this should be derived by employing and having empathy for all the stakeholders that are related to your product. It's not just about the customer or the end user, it truly is about everyone that's interacting there. So the moral of this story, when we first now look at the whole topic, you need to break down these artificial barriers that we've created with these silos to then proactively engage in empathy that then allows trust to bubble out to the service. And that is when you really can unlock a lot of potential that wasn't there before.
Going from speaking about a great product manager, I'm going to speak about one of our excellent salespeople, or at least ex-salespeople. Here's Philip. Philip has been one of our star performers in the Swedish sales team. I think in most of his interactions with the customer, he kept bumping into the same problem that the customers were articulating, which is they wanted like a very simple budgeting feature. I think in Sweden there's something called as friskvård, where companies give you like a small budget to spend on being active and focusing on your health. So think about the gym subscription, or going for a yoga class, or going for a sports lesson. And he kept working with the product teams to actually get this delivered, but nothing got delivered because it's such a local, tiny feature that most of the product teams didn't care about it. So what he did in true Pleo fashion, he rolled up his sleeves, learned how to prototype. He built a prototype, went across the organization, I think spoke to 60 different people internally, got a lot of feedback in, worked iteratively on the prototype. And I think when we saw this happening in front of our eyes, we were like, oh, this is really amazing. We built a really small team around him, gave him a couple of engineers, and then he delivered the feature, which is being massively well received, not just in the Swedish market, but I think some of the other relevant markets as well. And now what Philip is doing, he has become a full-time product manager, and he's now opening markets for us. He very recently launched Finland for us. And I think the whole goal of the story is we've brought product and commercial people together, gave them very clear, but I think aligned targets, and now they're running on it together, be it the commercial sales target or even opening new markets. We then took this to the next level. I think Pleo has grown from 140 people in 2020, roughly, to 800 people right now. That's a really fast growth. And we took this learning, and I think we put that in the entire structure of the organization. So what we have done, as Aiyana was mentioning, previously we were organized in vertical silos: marketing, sales, customer success, product, each one trying to run their own little battle. And we said, hey, you know what? We're going to abolish all of that. We identified clear customer problems and kind of brought the right relevant people working towards that customer problem. So a customer problem could be opening a new market, or opening 15 new markets, right? And then we brought cross-functional teams, made sure that the decision-making was decentralized right down to the team level. That enabled a lot of collaboration, but what that also did, people who are the closest to the customers felt super empowered. Because imagine an organization of 800 people. You can't imagine 6, 7, 8 very senior people making all the decisions. It's almost impossible. It's almost wrong in a way, right? And we push down decision-making down to the lowest level, the most important level, which is the team level. And the team is the single most important factor right now in the way we do everything.
Great. So we've talked about now sort of 2 very specific cases, but if we take a step back and we look a bit more at the macro level of what we've been able to do at our company and the impact that this has had, it's pretty astonishing. So in the last year and a half, we've launched product-led European market expansion, so product-led growth. That means that initially we had launched, or previously we had launched about 6 countries in 6 years. What we were able to do in 5 months is essentially launch 7 more. Like, if you think about efficiency gains, like that is pretty impressive. Well, we like to think so anyway. In terms of another really interesting trend, if we think about our SMB customer segment, which has a pretty big chunk of initially our revenue, so any decision we make is pretty big and it has a pretty big consequence to the company. Initially, all of our customers were dependent on having a conversation with a sales rep and was a bit blocked from progressing in their journey if we did not have the capacity to support that. What we've also now been able to do is essentially develop a totally self-serve process, meaning that customers are not blocked in any sort of way. So we've gone from 0 customers being able to self-serve and onboard themselves to now absolutely all of them. And these 2 case studies that we look at are just symbolic to the bigger trends that we've been able to see. So if we think about now, the bigger picture here of the why is pretty clear. The impact we've been able to have is enormous in our opinion. If then we think about the how, we also have some very clear recommendations. So 1, break down the barriers to build trust and make sure that you don't just have empathy for your customers, but you also have empathies for your colleagues. Because if you don't sort out the relational level, the business won't work. And that's fundamental. 2, create structures that enable collaboration. And by that, we mean having shared goals is a must. Because if not, you have everyone running essentially in different directions. And when you do those 2 things, you're able then to delegate and distribute a lot of the day-to-day decision-making to the team. And the team then is able to execute, implement, and decide a lot faster than, the senior executive is a company of 800 people, which then makes things very, very slow. So with that, that's the end. We hope that you enjoyed our talk. I know that we have about 2 minutes left. So if there are any questions from anyone in the crowd, we can take them now, or...
We can take at least 2 questions, maybe.
So are those teams squads, and how big is a squad, and what's the right size for that?
Yeah, exactly. It's organized like squads. We try to ensure that a team doesn't go beyond 8 or 10 people. I think it's a very simple 2 pizza principle. If you can feed a team with 2 pizzas, then that's the right size.
Thank you. So, questions about your service. How you solve the problem of allowing key members in the team to spend or to pay to different services or collaboration without to each time go through the financial department and request them to do the payments?
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's about sort of delegating spend and having trust in your employees to be able to do that. Well, we've seen a lot that a lot of these questions don't come down so much to control. It's not about blocking things. It's about you need to create a system where you have a sense of understanding of what's happening, and we can achieve that through transparency. So rather than having an approval process where you need to approve 99% of expenses that you know it's going to happen, why not create a framework where everyone agrees and understands this is appropriate, this is not appropriate, and then essentially allow people to be able to operate within that environment. And in the end, you know, this is the team that you've hired, there's got to be a degree of trust there. But also, it's within the limits, and then you having that real-time information should give you the overview that you need to understand where your money is going with your business and all of that. Okay, I think we're out of time. I think there are a couple questions there, but if there's anyone else that wants to find us after the talk, that would be great.
Please welcome Outreach Senior Director, Strategic Sales, Rebecca Feiten, and Poya Ventures founder, Poya Osgouei.
Check, check. Hi, everybody. Can you hear us? Yeah? Everyone ate lunch? We feeling good?
The Cantina, that would have been my go-to.
Yeah. All right, we got to ask. How many of you are founders? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you are in sales? Wow, that's a lot of people. How many in marketing? Okay, you got to leave. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. I'm Poya. This is Rebecca. And you want to tell them what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah. So I think we can all agree that 2022 is shaping up to be just as unpredictable as the last 2 years. COVID, global conflict, market uncertainty, unpredictability is the new name of the game.
2022 is like, hold my beer, 2021. Just keeps getting worse.
So I think we're seeing that the teams, the sales teams, the go-to-market organizations that are really thriving are the ones that are data-driven, they're adaptable, they're resilient, they're empathetic. And so we're going to talk this afternoon a little bit about how do you spot those reps and those managers that are willing to kind of reinvent the wheel, adapt new tech, new talent, new strategies to succeed in the new normal.
So our good friends at Outreach did a joint survey, and they interviewed about 300 revenue leaders, most of them in sales, some in marketing. And basically what they found of like what makes a modern day high-performing sales team had a couple of characteristics. One of them was they're digital savvy, so they think that very much a digital first mindset. They have the up-to-date modern attributes. This is basically what we're going to talk about. What are the skill sets that sales reps and sales managers need? And we'll give some examples of how you as a founder and as a person in sales can assess for that. And then they forecast effectively, which makes sense. So they're a little more data-driven. And last but not least, they're inclusive. They're prioritizing making sure having a diverse and inclusive team is important. So I'll talk about the attributes of a modern day sales rep, and then Rebecca's going to talk about the modern manager. So if you think about it, as a sales rep, there's basically two themes. One of them is a little more data-driven in that they're predictable, they know their numbers, they have a good heart rate. The other side is a little more of like they're a team player, they know how to build a good relationship, which makes sense. They have the IQ, but also the EQ, the emotional intelligence. And what I'm going to talk about is, as a revenue leader, whether you're a founder in sales or if you're a sales rep, how you can assess to make sure you have some of these skill sets. So, to be very clear, not every single person has every single one of these characteristics. So it's okay if you don't, again, have every single one of these characteristics that we're going to talk about. But it's your job to either be self-aware and know which ones you need to like be really, really good at, and which ones maybe you need to fill the gap for. So one way to assess for this, raise your hand again if you're a founder, VP of sales. Okay. So if you have a sales rep, some of the best salespeople you'll ever meet, they just know their numbers really, really, really well. They have a really good understanding of how many opportunities they need, how many they're going to source themselves, how many are going to be sourced by marketing, how many are going to be sourced by the SDRs. But they also have a really, really good understanding of their conversions. Like how many opportunities do I have, but more importantly, how many of them am I going to keep converting until I get to a close one? One way you can assess for this is if you go back to the office, if you maybe have a sales rep that's here, there's a ton of room, sit them down and find out if they know their numbers cold. That's the best way to know if they're data-driven or not. But the second way, and there's a really good line that people basically use, which is, as a team, you should always win and lose as a team, meaning you don't want lone wolves, right, on your sales team, meaning if you have a sales rep, any deal that they're in, they better bring in other stakeholders internally, whether it's the founder, whether it's the CTO, to close those deals on their own. So the two ways, again, you can assess for these. There's other ways is, can you assess to make sure they know their numbers cold, and do they win and lose as a team? Rebecca, you want to tell them the attributes of a modern-day sales manager?
Sure. So when we think about how we lead our teams and the things that we look for at the management layer, I think everyone is probably talking about How do we get the most out of the teams that we have on the ground, the headcount that we have approved from finance, or the number of seats that we can physically hire right now? So we're basically looking at, are you driving consistent, predictable participation across your entire team? Can you coach across different channels, in different environments? Do you increase your reach by leveraging technology? Are you a champion for your teams when it comes to career development, like mental health and wellness? And then can you ingest data to inform business decisions? And lastly, are you affecting positive change for your business, the organization, and your teams? So when we look at this, either evaluating our teams internally or looking at people to join our team externally, there's sort of three key things that we talk to managers about. And the first is, do they have a clear and consistent operating rhythm? Do they have a way of inspecting the things that they expect from their team, and do they clearly communicate that regularly? Do they know and can they predict the participation of their team? What do they do if the participation of a rep or a handful of reps isn't looking great? How do they plan for that in their forecasting? How do they plan for that in performance management? And then do they invest in their team? Are they inspiring? Are they a good coach? Do they include that team in their decision making? So a couple of the exercises that we'll run through in this process of interviewing is, we'll look through an example of, can you walk us through how you performance managed a rep that wasn't succeeding? And another thing that we're hyper focused on is forecasting. So we like to ask candidates, can you give us an example of how data informs your forecasting practices? You want me to wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we've covered essentially like the business environment today beyond global political conflict and hyper-contagious viruses is more competitive, it's more fast-paced, it's more data-centric than ever before, and we have to make sure that our teams are prepared. So they need the technology to help them build good, winnable pipeline at scale. We need to provide them with playbooks and processes so that they can go and take the right actions at the right time with the right audience. And then ultimately, we need to understand and have visibility into the entire engagement model so that we can inform our forecasting and better predict our business.
And that wraps it up. I want to thank everybody for coming. Thanks for joining us at SaaS Europa. Thanks to our friends for Outreach. We are going to do Q&A, but we're going to do it at the Outreach booth. So for the next 5, 10, 30 minutes, however long it takes, Rebecca and I will be there. So come on over, come say hi.
The test.
Yeah, we could help us assess the SDRs of Outreach. That's the real test. With that said, thank you.
Please welcome VP of Sales at Globalization Partners, Nick Adams, and Director of Marketing, EMEA, at Globalization Partners, Suzanne McVey.
Hey everyone, thank you all so much for joining us today on how sales and marketing can be each other's best asset.
Hello, I'm Nick Adams. I'm the VP of EMEA for Globalization Partners. Great to be here in sunny Barcelona. Today we're going to talk a little bit about aligning sales and marketing and give you some tips. So I'm going to kick off and just give you a little bit of background on who we are and what we do. So we are what's called an employer of record. Quite simply, if you imagine you're expanding your business into a new country, traditionally you would have to set up your own entity, find someone to do payroll, find a lawyer to create employment contracts. Well, we can do all of that for you. We have our own entities already, so we can hire any of your workers in 187 countries within a couple of days. So the slide you can see now shows you a little bit about our sales and marketing coverage around the world. We're a larger organization now, certainly, than when I joined 2 years ago. So we're more than 1,000 employees. We're a $5 billion organization. And we have approximately half of the business in our sales and marketing function. So for us, we have a lot of people all across the world. We've localized in 15 languages, and it's incredibly important that we get the mix between sales and marketing right. Next slide, please. So tip number one, how can we get marketing to protect sales time? First thing I'm going to say is our structure in the organization is one where we have a single decision maker who runs both sales and marketing. So we have a chief revenue officer, and everybody within sales, the partner teams, and also marketing reports into that structure. So I would say, that's an incredibly important point, which is to have somebody who owns both functions and has responsibility across the board for sales and marketing. We're very lucky in our sales team because we have a great marketing machine. This year we'll have about 1.5 million marketing qualified leads coming in through all of our content syndication, Google AdWords, events, and so on. So our sales reps get fed leads from marketing, which is pretty easy for them. Most of my career I had to go out and find business opportunities. What's very important is that the quality of the leads coming in is also very strong. So marketing spend a lot of time to ensure that the leads are of high quality, they're not spam, they do meet our ICP, or ideal customer profile, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But ensuring that we get good quality leads across to the reps means that they can save a lot of their time. So McKinsey were the ones who came up with the estimation of about a 20% saving, or just under, of your time if you're getting the right quality leads to your sales reps so that they can be much more productive. Let's go to the next one. Talking about ICP, so ideal customer profile. This is very important. You want to make sure your sales reps are spending their time on real opportunities. So what we've done is we've broken down what we believe are all the characteristics of what a great customer and a great opportunity is. You'll have a look at the functions and the roles. So for us, that's usually going to be a VP of HR or a founder or a CEO. Looking at the industries where you're typically successful as well, and at Globalization Partners, that tends to be scale-ups, startups, high-tech. Looking at for regional nuances as well. Size of the business, and again, for us, we found that, again, if we're looking at scale-ups, typically it's going to be late seed, Series A, Series B, sometimes a little bit further on than that. So again, we know where to concentrate. We also use a lot of account-based marketing to ensure that when we do message out to prospective organizations, we are messaging the right types of organizations. Then there's a load of other attributes we also put in there as well. Most importantly, intent, understanding where companies are on their life cycle, what it is they're trying to do. Are they expanding abroad, for example? Is there recent M&A activity? All of those activities identify for us that they are looking to expand, and therefore we can help them with their hiring needs. Across to you, Susan.
Thanks, Nick. So tip number 2, sales can help marketing spend smarter. In a recent B2B study, it was found that one of the biggest barriers to marketing success was a lack of insight on target audience. The better the marketers know their target audience, the better the lead they're going to generate, right? So sales teams can help marketing teams learn more about the target audience in 3 ways. Number 1, recording calls and inviting marketing to sales meetings. So I'm sure that many of you have heard the technology Gong. We use Gong to record our sales calls. And I love to go in and bookmark and listen to the really good sales calls, because that gives me an understanding of what the customer is talking about in the voice of the customer, in their own words, what their challenges are and their pain points are. And this information is like gold for a marketer. Number 2, including marketing on pipeline calls and always discussing lead sources. So every week, every Monday, sales, marketing, BDRs and partners, we get together for 60 minutes and we look at the wins from the week before or the programs that we have running that week. And for the last 15 minutes, we look at pipeline. So we look at all of the open pipeline together, where it's at, what the lead sources are, and what the next steps are. And this is a really important part of all of our week. And number 3, last but definitely not least, diligently noting close lost and close won reasons and suggesting new reasons. So this is so important because this is a really good indicator of analyzing campaigns. So we want to see what campaigns are working for the close won, or from close lost. What are the reasons? What are the programs? What are the lead sources? Every week I have an email digest that goes to myself, my inbox, and the sales leader's inbox as well, looking at the close lost reasons and details and programs and lead sources. So it's a really good way for us to spot trends on what could be optimized in the marketing channels. And then we also look at close won. So I have a closed won report every week, and we look at the closed won reasons and details. And this enables me to do a journey of the week. What is a journey of the week, I hear you say? Well, this is what one looks like. On that sales call every Monday, we take a journey that's closed from the week before, and we look at all of the different components of it. So all of the different touch points that made the deal close, all of the different people involved, because it takes a village, right? And this very easy activity to do is it's amazing for sales and marketing alignment, because we're learning from each other, we're celebrating each other, and we're also building camaraderie and giving kudos, which is super important. And the last tip, so they can team up to hit the same targets. It sounds simple, right? But you'd be surprised how many sales and marketing teams do not have the same goals. You've got a better chance of hitting the goals together, and then you can celebrate together. There are 2 types of goals that need to be aligned. Number 1, it's the bottom of the funnel metrics. So your close won deals, your revenue, your net new customers, your existing customer expansion, all of the MQL, SQL numbers. And number 2, conversion rates. So lead to opportunity and opportunity to close. These 2 always have to be aligned. How to stay focused on this? Well, at GP we have Tableau dashboards and Salesforce dashboards that show us how we're pacing towards these goals on a monthly, quarterly and yearly basis. The dashboards are available to everyone to look at if they want to drill down more information on lead source or country. And it's also communicated on that Monday call how we're doing as a region. What to watch out for in this area? There's 2 key things. So the first is marketing celebrating top of the funnel metrics when sales is missing their number. So while top of the funnel metrics are a leading indicator of funnel success, let's not celebrate until the deals are closed or the revenue is realized. Or then on the flip side, sales teams celebrating for hitting goals, but then telling marketing when they're not hitting goals that they need better leads or better qualified leads. Any marketers here have definitely heard that story before. So marketers in this case will just burn out and leave, and that's not what we want. So tell your sales team to say thank you. It's a huge motivator. We say thank you a lot in GP, so this is a platform that we use. It's called 15.5, and every week or every day, whatever you like, we can go in here and we give each other virtual high fives. So we high five people that have made a difference to your day or your week or you want to formally acknowledge. This little, this little activity can really make a big difference. People want to feel valued and recognized, and it's just a little way to say thank you. So the key takeaways today: number 1, marketing can protect the sales team's time. Number 2, sales can help marketing spend smarter. And number 3, they can team up to have the same targets. On that note, we want to say a big thank you to you for joining our session today. You can visit us at booth 201. Myself and Nick will be over there straight after this session. And we have a demo at 2 o'clock if anyone is interested in seeing the Globalization Partners platform. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the event.
Thank you.
make as the barrier is a lot lower. And essentially, the thing is, with mass media, any small startup from London could compete with the big guys in an auction. So it makes it a lot easier to reach your target audience without having to buy a booth that no one approaches. Sorry. And the last thing that changed, and this is something that, like, as B2B owners, we need to stop. Okay. The thing is, the UX expectation from people like me or you who buy software now has to match consumer experiences. If I go on Spotify or Netflix and the UX is great, you can't just assume that you will dump a lengthy form in my face and be like, well, it's B2B. Like, he'll understand that he'll have to fill in thousands of fields here in this form, and the website won't be accessible on mobile because it's a software and they get it. It has to be crappy, right? Well, actually, it doesn't. And the companies who succeed at this are companies who market like B2C, okay, and understand the new buyers. So just to align on these four, moving into the next slide, the companies who succeed with performance marketing, it could be on Facebook platforms or YouTube for that matter, right? It doesn't really matter. But you have to be product-led. Now, that's a coin that everyone uses now, okay? The idea for me when I look at product-led, the direction is that the gates are open to the product, whether you're an enterprise or an SMB, but you have to be able to access the product. If I can enter the product self-serve, for me, it's product-led, okay? If I'm blocked or gated, contact sales, even if you have a great product, it's not product-led, and you probably can't succeed with a scaled platform, okay, like Facebook, etc. So some examples of companies that I would consider to be very good candidates to build a performance marketing moat operation. So you probably know all the logos here. The thing that's common between all of these is that it doesn't matter if you're an enterprise or you're a startup or like other form of long tail, you enter the product. When you go onto the website, you have the capability to start self-serve. Let's dive into a specific company. So Monday, so this is a company that I've been working with for 6 years. They were pre-seed when we met them, and they were a zero-touch company, what they do, they're like a project management tool, competing with Asana, Slack, Jira, etc. And they're purely self-serve. They always build product first. They had 0 salespeople on board, and they marketed on Instagram like crazy. At a certain point, they were the biggest spender, like on Facebook for B2B, and they were like a small startup from Israel, but they made it profitable. As they went public, they decided to go more upmarket, but they didn't change how they market. So, and we're going to see an example later on. The thing is, even if you're a Walmart, okay, or a Google, and you want to start using their product, you are allowed to enter the funnel self-serve completely. Then someone will probably pick up the account internally and reach out to you through inside sales. But the gates are open. And that's how they market, and we'll see it in how they approach creative. The thing is, they don't try to go too niche into enterprise or too broad to SMB. They try to apply to all, and that's actually the way to go when you're going into a mass media broadcasting platform like ours, like one of ours. Other benefits making this mode potentially work with Instagram or Facebook. First of all, the sales cycle is a lot shorter. So you invest money in marketing, and you're supposed to see some proxy or level of ROI pretty fast, okay? Because we're not talking about like a 9-month period. If you're self-serve, there's a chance of like a 14-day free trial. It's easier to optimize, and it's quicker to understand the unit economics. So potentially, if you want to expand into a new market and you go to 15 events, it's going to take you time to understand if this worked. And it leads to the third point. A lot of it will be dependent on the feedback that you get from your salespeople, if they manage to close or not. Now, when you're low touch, it forces you to have an excellent product. And your product will feed back what's going on. If people sign up, if they drop off or not, that's the best signal at scale. So it's cheaper to do it, actually. It's cheaper to go into a new market with a product-led approach. And the product will, your product will stay above the edge, okay? If you're not reliant on feedback from salespeople all the time. And the fourth thing is, if you do that, you scale substantially. So I've worked with companies who really had about $2 million in the bank, and they were able to invest tens of millions of dollars a year on performance marketing because it was profitable, and they could scale up substantially and recycle the revenues that they get from booked clients into marketing. So the scale is a lot more rapid. And this is how rapid, okay? So what we're seeing here, what I did here is I took all the world famous SaaS companies that you know, and I try to bucket them into 2 different segments. A, I can enter the product. B, I cannot enter the product. And this is demand for marketing, okay? So this is Facebook and Instagram, how many, let's call it demand for eyeballs, okay? For the past 3 years, and you can see the stagnatish plateau in sales-driven organizations, okay, where you're blocked, and the tremendous growth when you're self-serve. And this is updated onto like the last quarter, okay? So it's always been growing, which makes it the best fit. So essentially, if you're not low touch, this probably isn't the talk for you. If you want to be low touch, you're probably in the right place. This is how it works, okay? And I can't obviously disclose the figures, but it's substantial here. Another thing, just to break some common beliefs. So I read this report from McKinsey a few months ago, and it broke a lot of myths like in the industry. So first thing is that a lot of B2B companies want to start market self-serve. Okay, they want to go self-serve. I don't want to hire salespeople. I want to be able to market self-serve. 65% of people want to self-serve. And the second thing that it's even more mind-blowing for me is the willingness to pay a high amount on a credit card. Okay, so out of the survey, I know surveys are not like hard data, but it is a survey. 35% said that they're willing to swipe up to $500,000 for their team on a credit card if allowed. Whereas, like, we're used to a world where there's an IO, definitely, an IO negotiation. Essentially, if you take a look at how Stripe are selling, okay, or Monday are selling, you would go there and you are able to swipe $1 million on your credit card for your business if you want to. You have the option to do that, and people want to do that. And here's the last thing. And this is probably because of COVID. I mean, it probably accelerated it, right? So 80% of the people surveyed said that they don't even want to talk to anyone. Like if I want to buy Netflix, do I really need to talk to an SDR to sell this subscription to me? No, I don't. Like, same with whatever, Spotify, SoundCloud. Like, why would you think that I would want you to convince me to subscribe to this video library, and it's the same with software. If it's built for consumer, like, I don't want to talk to you. I want to go on, maybe I need customer success, I can use Drift or something, Intercom, and I can get on board, and that's enough. It's an important lesson because a lot of us, especially as small startups, we want to get feedback from everyone, but the thing is, if you scale up, it's going to be harder to talk to everyone, so you need to be able to support 4 out of 5 people who actually want to talk to you, to get it fast. So that's the who. So we defined the who, okay? I mean, maybe you have time for questions later, but the thing is, you need to be product-led, you need to be able to support scaled adoption, and the product will fuel the marketing and not salespeople. Now let's talk about the how. So I won't go into the tactics of how you build a campaign on Instagram because I don't think this is the forum, but I want to look at it at a more strategic level and define a problem that I've seen. First of all, let's talk about why Facebook probably is not working for either of you here. Okay? The thing is, doing B2B marketing on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter is hard. And it's a lot harder than consumer. Why? Four things. A, there's a huge challenge in finding the people that you want to find. A team manager, a founder, a developer. It's hard to find them in this sea of faces and people. So that's one challenge that if you sell T-shirts, well, it's not a challenge. I mean, you target a specific age and that's it, or gender. That's one. The second thing is, how do you convey the message of your product in a platform where people would go like this, swipe, like really, really fast, and swipe through 97 meters of content a day, which is a fact, by the way. 97 meters of content on feeds every day globally. So within those 97 meters, there are like 4 centimeters where you want to deliver the message that your product solves the most important business pain, and you can pay annually, and it integrates with a bunch of other things. How do you do that? That's a craft. And it is a craft. The third thing is, well, since it's not B2C, the consideration window is going to be a little bit longer. Even if it's not like completely sales-led, just like a project management tool or a website builder, it's possible you want to give it a spin for a few weeks. It's not an immediate decision, so that makes it hard to track and attribute. And the fourth thing, and this is like sort of like it's forced onto us as B2B SaaS marketers. The thing is, your product ultimately will be used on desktop. That's where people pay. That's where people enjoy the product in most cases. But when you do performance marketing, there's a 97% chance that a person will be served an ad on their mobile. And that is also a fact. So about 97% of all the traffic on Facebook and Instagram is mobile, and your product is desktop. So you need to find them on mobile, get them to understand what you guys do, click on your ad, sign up, and then ultimately access via their email and start activating. And that's hard. That's why a lot of you don't succeed. And another reason why you don't succeed is because a lot of us are doing one thing. You say, like, okay, I'm going to do this. It's going to work. It worked for this company. It worked for QuickBooks. It worked for Stripe. I'm going to do it. So let's hire a really good guy or girl, women, to handle our media. This person is great. They worked at an agency, and he's going to do everything. And that's where you stop. You stop here, and that person cannot do it. I've been doing it for 12 years. I have never met the person who is able to do targeting, optimization, creative, BI measurement, funnel hacking on their own. There's no way he's going to do it. You're setting this up to fail. The other functions you need to hire is a full-blown team, okay? And that's the essence of the spiel today, okay? So the idea here is to hire a media team, and you need to hire a creative workforce, and I'll explain what I mean by creative, because we need to align on the term here as well. And a BI team to handle tracking and attribution. You're going to run on Facebook and YouTube and search and organic and events. And you need someone to take a look at this and be able to attribute, because if you go into scale marketing, you're going to have a ton of traffic and you will have no idea where it came from. So you need a professional to work on this, probably a data scientist. And then the last thing is you probably need someone who understands product that can bridge the gap between mobile impression and a desktop activation. It's a full-blown team. So I surveyed a bunch of the companies that my team works with, and we came up with a Pareto org chart, okay? And it looks like this. So, is a suggested org chart, okay? So you have a growth marketing team, which has 4 different departments. We'll focus on the 2 on the left. Team number 1 is the team that does media, and you split it into 2. One team does everything that is low intent, Okay, discovery channels, it's a completely different practice. Getting your name out there on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, etc. And then you have one person who does harvesting. It's not the same school. A person who is really good with SEO or Google search is not the same person who will help your product get discovered. It's a different practice. It's more methodical. It's less creative. It's a totally different profession. So best teams have two modes. One that do search or intent, like they advertise on Capterra. Okay, and then the other team does discovery for cold audience. That's one. And then the creative team, let's align on that. So I meet with a lot of startup founders, and they tell me, listen, we hired this brilliant creative person, and they came up with our messaging, and we nailed it. But that's actually not what I'm referring to in the context of today. What you need is an agile team. Probably you need an animator, a video producer, a photographer, or you can freelance. And you need to be able to have a team that can produce rapidly a bunch of video assets that you will push on Instagram stories and TikTok and YouTube. So the best companies release 8 new videos of 12 seconds a month. Okay, and that's how you do it. So a bunch of them are actually here, and they actually spoke here today, and you can reach out and see. Their logos are on stage. So they have a team that really creates for performance, not for the messaging. It's not the video that you have on your website when people come on your website. It's not that. It's snackable pieces of content that explain a specific USP, a magnet that makes people sign up to your product to begin with. Now, I know that all your products have a lot of different cool features, but there's probably that one that you had when you started the company, right, that made people stick. It could be a chargeback. It could be some sort of efficiency that's being gained, the ability to collaborate. There's probably one USP, one benefit that gets people to sign up, and that could be enough. So you can have a team who works on distilling that message and crafting dozens of assets to help people come into your product, and start with that feature. Start with your winning USP. Because probably if you're going to try to promote 3 or 4 of them, so your creative team will think that they did a great job, and so will the CEO of the company. But in essence, it's not going to work because people don't have the time. Okay, so 90% of the people don't stay further than 3 seconds on a video. So you probably have 3 seconds. Okay, hey, this is what we do. We have a lot of customers. Click here to get started. There are other cross-functional that are dotted lines into that. Okay, so it could be a part of the team, but in essence, and based on the survey and what I found, it's not. So you need power from BI. You need a data scientist to be able to track all that. Okay, and it's hard as it is. It's not if you hire someone it's going to work, but you need that person. And you're probably going to need a developer to set up tests for your product. That's the org chart. I'm going to take a sip of water. So excited by this. So this is an exemplar org chart, and this is based on the best. Okay, a bunch of really, really strong companies. Some of them are public already, some of them are building the moat. But based on my experience, the only way to go about this is if you understand that this is a moat. It's like you hire a sales team. Okay, it's an online sales team, and you can't hire 2 AEs and say it's an online sales team. If you want to go big and make it work, you need to hire a cross-functional team. So how to crack performance marketing for SaaS? We're going to see one example, just one, and then we'll move into takeaways. What I want you to take from the example I'm about to display is basically one thing. First of all, how they target. And the second thing is how the creative experience applies to all businesses. And this is super important, okay? It applies to an enterprise and a startup, and let's see how it works. So I'm trying to be consistent throughout this slide, so I'm going to use the same company again. So I don't know if you can read what this says here. So this is the sign-up flow for Monday.com, okay? The first thing that happens after you click Start Here is they're asking you, who are you? But not for your name. What best describes you? And then it says, I'm a business owner, I'm a team leader, I'm a team member, I'm a freelancer, or I'm a director, CFO, whatever. So why are they asking this? 2 reasons. The obvious answer is, well, they want their salespeople to know who came in, right? If it's a C-level, we'll have an SDR reach out. That is correct. But that also serves a marketing purpose, and a really important one. Why? Because Monday can use responses here, with user consent, of course, considering privacy and all that stuff, to target these people and their lookalikes on Instagram or Facebook. Okay, so if you say that you're a VP and you have enough answers, you can shoot this up to Instagram and say, you know what, can you find me more of these at scale? And we'll try. Okay, the machine will try to do it. We can't promise, but we'll try. And this is brilliant because a lot of people would look at this and say, this is for sales. But not for sales, it's for marketing, and they target based on their own signals. What better way to target than using what you know about your clients? And you can do that. Now let's take a look at the creative. So the creative here is generic enough to apply to all. What's important here is that you see the product. Okay, this is always important because in a lot of cases, people will have no idea that you're even a product, like a software, okay? So imagine you scrolling on your feed and seeing something that says, whatever, I don't know, learn how to manage your business, grow your business, something like that. I would think, wait, is this like a Fiverr service? Is it consulting? Why am I seeing this ad? And man, they say, first of all, understand that this is like a desktop product, okay? It's a product. You see like numbers running with UX, flashy, cool. First of all, understand it's a product, and a lot of companies actually don't get that, and they think that if they use words or a human, and that's enough, but probably no. I mean, why not let people know that you're a product? When you see an ad for Netflix, you see the video library, always. And I always like to think about that because their marketing is brilliant, and it can easily be adopted into SaaS, because Netflix is a software too. The second thing is the landing page, and this is great, okay? So I'm going to play it. Try to look at this in a critical eye, and see why this is great. They want enterprises and SMBs to sign up. And I'll show you how, okay? So first of all, you can sign up and it says get started, not contact sales. That's one. Second, it says no credit card required. This is purely for the SMB favor. Then you see a bunch of logos here. And the logos here are enterprises. Now, you would argue and say, wait, of course it's enterprise. Everyone wants to see an enterprise, and that's not true. If you take a look at Squarespace and how they market, the marketing strategy for Squarespace is small business. You go onto squarespace.com and you see a mom and pop shop, and you're like, why? This is good company for me. I have a bakery too. And if you're an enterprise, you will see this. So this applies to you as an enterprise. And then they highlight different features that could apply to all. So they talk about how they integrate with a bunch of different tools. That's for the enterprise. And the second thing is try Monday for your team. It's not for your company. It's for your team. It's, well, the ad is for me. I don't run the company. I run a team, a 6-people team. I work at a big brand, but the ad is for me. They want me to try. And this is super important to understand. I prefer that you open the gate and increase the probability of an enterprise entering self-serve. And this happens. Like, Walmart could enter self-serve, and there's even a higher probability that they enter self-serve through an ad versus if you try to do an ABM strategy on a social behemoth and be like, you know what, I'm going to find that guy at Walmart and they will download the white paper. Well, it might be that they will download the white paper, but I'm not sure it would be the most efficient way to find that person. Definitely not on a mass media platform. There are other ways to find that C-level, and it's probably not through Facebook. Okay? Let's go into takeaways. Yes, okay. Yes. The most important thing to understand is if you want to make this happen, it's not something that you do on the go. It's not complementing the PR strategy or the sales strategy. This is the decision. The decision you make is a major part of my revenues are going to be generated self-serve through performance marketing. And then I hire a team to do that. This is a strategic bet that you take if you think your product has got the chops for it. Okay? And you need to define clear KPIs. And this is something that I'm seeing happen a lot, actually. You have a product that can serve an SMB and an enterprise. And what happens is you only have KPIs for one of these. So you have like a target for a sales qualified lead, $1,000. That's a target. And you spend a lot of money on marketing, and you ended up getting 2 SQLs, and you think that it was a waste of money, but that is because you have no idea how to track the hundreds of SMBs that came onto your platform and used it. So what you want to do, what the best ones do, think about HubSpot, Zendesk, what you would have is 2 modes. You have a KPI for enterprise, and you have a KPI for low touch. Different KPIs, and then you aggregate the results together and look at it together. Okay? And as I mentioned, there's a really good chance that an enterprise will enter self-serve, and I'm seeing more and more of that, as opposed to being very targeted and try to target like a high enterprise, etc. And you have to be agile. This is super, super, super crucial, okay? So it's just like you release a product. You go into a marketing campaign. You don't spend 6 months producing this video, and it's lengthy, and you spent $50,000 producing it, and you run it on LinkedIn ads, and it didn't work, and you say, you know what? It's not for me. We wasted money, 50K, what is this? Honestly, I would recommend that you spend 10K and produce like 5, very, let's call it like quick and dirty videos just to see if this works, instead of investing so much money in like a brand type of video. Take a few product shots, hire someone to do like a video, insert a few captions, and release it to the market and see how it works. Okay? You have to be very agile, and you can think big, but still operate agile. Okay? You can hire a team and still operate agile. It doesn't mean that if you have a big team, you need to spend a lot on your creative. You need to spend a lot on the right type of thing that you want to do. So a bunch of creatives is better than one really, really good one. Okay? And actually, I've seen companies produce Super Bowl ads and that they cost millions, and they try to take it onto Instagram and they flop. Like they flop miserably because it's a TV ad. TV ad and their architecture is completely different than social. In TV ad, you see someone in pain, they're in the desert, they're thirsty, and in the end, someone comes with a can of Sprite, and oh, yeah, now I got it, it's Sprite. But on social, if you take this bet, no one's going to stay to understand that you're solving this problem. So you're going to have to lead with a can of Sprite, if you may. So it's a completely different approach. Ahead of time, thank you very much. And I'm here for questions if you want. We have time for some questions if you want, or I'm here and the team is here, so feel free.
Hello? Okay. So thanks a lot for the talk. So what happens if you also have a
core product, or it's a companion? It's a core product. So 2 things you can do. Either you do a mobile funnel, so you capture the signals like Monday. You do like a complete mobile funnel where you sign up, and in the end you have a CTA to download the app. Or you send people directly to download the app, which is, I think it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. So I would use a mobile funnel, collect some information that you can, so you can always email market, and then send people to download the app, okay? More questions? Yeah.
Hi. Thanks for the great presentation. When do you think self-serve does not apply? For which type of products?
Okay, so I would say that there are areas that I haven't been able to see cracked and succeeded with. First thing is the B2D developers. Haven't seen success there. Everything around cyber, haven't seen success there. Where I've seen success is 3 areas. A, everything around MarTech, everything marketing related, advertising tools, website builders, logo builders, that's one. Second thing is financial tools for small businesses. Think loans, like Stripe and their family, expense management, very good. And everything around internal collaboration tool. So like Notion, Monday, IT tools, stuff like that, that could potentially work. But the rest, not really. So everything around developers is hard, very hard to crack, even if you're self-serve. Hard. More questions? The first hire you make is the growth marketer is going to hire the team. Yeah, I prefer that you hire someone who knows who to hire. More questions? Yeah.
How the product marketing team fits into the whole structure? What's the role? How they relate to the other teams?
Yeah, okay, so great question here on how the product marketing team relates into that. So first of all, it depends on how you define product marketing, okay? But ultimately, if your product marketing team does product growth, growth loops, etc. So they should be thick as thieves. Okay? Like for me, it's more important than the relationship you have with sales, right? So you have a performance marketing team, and then you have a growth team or a product growth team, product marketing team that sets up the experience. They do the funnel. They handle the drop-off between mobile and desktop. They handle the email marketing. They handle the onboarding. So for me, it's like a true partnership. And for the companies that we work with, our relationship is a lot of times more with the product team than with the media team. I hope this answers. More questions? I can stand here all day if you want. Nothing else? Yes.
So obviously you're an expert at Meta. Would you say the same things apply to LinkedIn, or is that different because that's more business users?
Yeah. Okay, so the question was, would I say the same thing applies to LinkedIn? It's a good question, and I think with LinkedIn, it's the exact opposite. And I'll explain. If you're an enterprise, and you want to sell to an enterprise, go to LinkedIn, definitely. And if you're a self-serve product and your collection is $700 a year ACV from self-serve, then I would probably not go to LinkedIn because it's going to be very hard to be efficient there. Think of it as, I like to think of it as like ocean and a pond, okay? So marketing on a mass media platform like YouTube, let's take YouTube or Facebook for an example. It's like cruising through the Pacific and trying to fish. If you have a general idea where you're going, there's a good chance that you'll find some good fish if you like fish, okay? If you have no idea what you're doing, there's a good chance you'll get diapers and foil. In any case, when you do Facebook marketing, you're going to find diapers and soda cans, unfortunately. But you're also going to find fish. LinkedIn is a smaller pond, but bigger fish. So if you go with a big boat, you probably won't fit, but with a net you can. So LinkedIn is tremendously efficient if you're enterprise, especially in sales, if you're targeting salespeople in HR. Yeah. What else? That's it? Great. Yes, last one. Yeah, so the question was around the type of creative, the format. Should it be an image? Should it be a video? So we actually have that benchmark, and some of the people on my team know it, like by heart, and can tell you it. You know, okay, the ratio is about 50-50, okay? And I mean, you can go to market with video, with images too. It might be a bit more challenging not to produce, but to deliver the message that you want, because you want to deliver your brand and your USP, and the fact that it's a SaaS that you can start for free with an image. It's hard, but it's definitely doable. Okay? If nothing else, we'll end. Great. Thank you so much, everyone.